opened her eyes. She was worn out, as though she'd fought a battle. Hattie ate until she was full, thankful she could still manage a fork. When they were finished, Martha wheeled her chair over by the stove. The fire was burning hot, crackling when Martha opened the door to add another stick of wood. Hattie felt herself becoming drowsy. Martha began singing again as she started on the dishes. "I've got a feeling everything's gonna be all right." Hattie smiled in satisfaction, closed her eyes, and drifted off. "Will that be all for you, then?" The cashier, an old man with bifocals and a droopy gray mustache, gave her a curious look, but nothing more. Mary Bridget Washburn smiled just a little, not having to pretend to be timid, and cast her eyes down at the array of cough and cold preparations on the counter in front of her. "It's the flu," she lied. "Whole family's laid out with it, my husband and children." She fingered the driver's license in her pocket, one of the many Jonah had paid the fellow in Charlottesville to make for her. He shook his head. "You don't look old enough to be married, let alone have children." He rang up the sale and loaded the bottles into a bag. She just nodded and knew that once again her silky blonde hair and wide blue eyes had done the trick. "Be 25 next birthday," she said, the only truthful thing she'd told the poor man in the whole conversation. She felt the familiar surge of relief as the bells on the door jingled behind her. Then she aimed for the sidewalk and looked for the truck, which was there for a change. Dwayne flicked his cigarette out the window and started the engine as she put the sack of cold preparations in the back, along with the bottles of antifreeze and drain cleaner and 2 big tanks of anhydrous ammonia. She tried not to think about what they would become. She'd seen a picture once in school of a fellow who'd been on methamphetamine. First picture was normal. Next picture looked to be about 10 years later, the third one taken when he was an old man. "These photos," the DARE officer had said, "were taken 6 months apart. That's what meth does to you." Mary put that thought out of her mind. Tried to, at least. She climbed into the passenger side, and thankfully Dwayne didn't speak, just grunted and shifted the truck into gear, pulled out onto the street, and then aimed for the bypass and home. Home, she thought with a shudder. A rusting single-wide where they ate and slept, and an old falling-down smokehouse out back where Jonah made the candy, as Dwayne called it. She closed her eyes and tried to ignore the voice that asked her, louder and louder each day, what she was doing here. "It's not my fault," she argued with it. "I'm making out best I know how." She certainly hadn't graduated from high school, set down her cap and gown, and decided to begin her career in meth production. No. Like her grandmother used to say, it had been like boiling a frog, a gradual and easy turning up the heat until the water was rolling up all around her, and here she still sat. She reviewed the steps that had gotten her here, the good reasons she'd had to leave home with Jonah and take his offer of easy money. But as she justified her actions, she could hear her mama's voice, gentle but stern, cautioning even from the grave that there was no right way to do a wrong thing. If Mama were here, everything would still be right, or at least not as bad wrong as it had become. But Mama was dead, and Papa was gone, her brother and sisters scattered, and she was here. How was it that her life had become such a dry, hot desert? A canyon of stone and dust, where every turn just led her farther in instead of out into grassy valleys, with shady trees and quiet ponds. Who was she really? Surely not this person she'd become. She tried to remember the last time she'd caught a glimpse of her real self. She focused her thoughts, not playing with the idea, but really wanting to remember, and her mind went to a place she'd tried hard not to visit. She was 12 years old. Her little girl face beamed back at her from memory's hiding place. Mary Bridget smiled, remembering the high point of that year. She had memorized 100 verses in Sunday school and won a brand new white leather Bible with her name embossed on the front in curly golden letters. Where had that girl gone? What had happened to change her? It was a question she never allowed herself to ask, and the only reason she was asking now was the gnawing, growling torment that had come